And from US to China, we're in signs of more economic pain for
China's debt-driven economy continues to collapse, and more people are desperately trying to access their deposited money. China's banks have frozen millions of dollars in multiple accounts amidst the crumbling economic situation, and this action has been greeted with protests and uprisings. Join us in today's video as we further analyze the financial crisis in China and the bank runs that continue to occur within its borders. Across China, bank runs continue to wreak havoc, and this time, the situation is growing increasingly tense. Last month, thousands of individuals in cities across China marched in the streets to demand that banks unfreeze their bank accounts. However, they were forced to leave by armed security personnel, and they continue to be at risk of losing all of their hard-earned money. During the month of April, 4 of the largest Chinese banks froze clients' accounts totaling millions of dollars, citing the need to upgrade their network infrastructure as the reason given to customers. However, the public has lost faith in corporations and the government by this point. China's massive $54 trillion financial system, double the value of the assets held by commercial US banks, is on the verge of a serious debt catastrophe, as per economists and analysts. The collapse of the real estate sector across the country, as well as the continued runs by banks, are just 2 symptoms of a far more widespread issue. Chinese citizens have gone into a rage, demanding that 4 of the country's largest rural banks release the funds they've been unable to access for months. Previously, many Chinese customers took to the streets to voice their dissatisfaction, but many were either wounded or detained by local officials. 3 months ago, banking institutions froze hundreds of millions of dollars in savings, citing a need for continued operational improvements.
A few months ago, 4 rural lenders in the northern province of Henan froze the deposits of hundreds of thousands of customers.
The account holder, on the other hand, claims that the banks have made no further announcements about the incident. Local news organizations predict that the entire value of blocked bank deposits could reach $1.5 million. Chinese officials have stated that they are looking into the bank's financial records. China's central bank in Zhengzhou was deluged by protesters, with tens of thousands of people demonstrating for actions. Protesters displayed banners and yelled anti-bank slogans on the large stairs leading up to the bank's entrance in the Henan province, roughly 620 kilometers southwest of Beijing. Millions of people, including those at the event, established accounts at 6 financial institutions that pay higher interest rates. At the beginning of this year, they discovered that they were unable to access their funds. Almost immediately after that, numerous stories surfaced indicating that the head of the bank's parent firm was hiding from authorities and was wanted for financial crime. While some institutions have been restricting withdrawals to a maximum of 1,000 yuan, others have been accepting only 1 or 2 customers every day. In the meantime, several banks are completely closing their branches. Even ATMs have run out, making it hard for many people to pay their monthly utility bills, according to residents. In a number of photographs and videos posted on social media, depositors can be seen brandishing placards and hurling plastic bottles at security personnel as they approach. In an interview with the local media, a businesswoman from Wenzhou who is 45 years old has claimed that since the beginning of the year, she has been unable to access her family's life savings, which totaled $6 million. Low-income farmers are particularly hard hit by the freezing, as they've deposited practically all of their life savings. They consider banks to be the most secure investment because of the backing of governmental credibility. An official remarked that improper management of the situation could cause societal unrest and jeopardize peace. The escalating societal unrest caused by the tragedy may pose a big challenge for the Chinese government. According to Reuters, the peaceful march was halted by local officials who stated over a vehicle-mounted loudspeaker that the meeting was an illegal gathering and that participants would be imprisoned and punished if they did not disperse.
A pro-democracy campaign that threatened to bring down the Communist Party. And to crush that campaign, China unleashed tanks on its own people. Unarmed students and protesters were targeted. According to one estimate, the Chinese army crackdown killed at least 10,000 people.
Some of the law enforcement officers took off their uniforms and wore white t-shirts so that they could blend in with the crowd as they began to dismantle the demonstration from the inside. A woman who only identified herself by her surname Zhang due to fear of retaliation disclosed that she had been the target of abusive behavior by others in positions of authority. "We came today. We wanted to get our savings back because I have elderly people and children at home, and the inability to withdraw savings have seriously affected my life," she explained. Zhang reported that she witnessed ladies being dragged down the bank's stairwell. She suffered an injury herself. She inquired to the officer, "Why did you hit me?" "What's wrong with hitting you?" he replied. According to a man from Beijing whose surname is Yang, the majority of the individuals at the meeting have already been exposed to statements made by officials and do not believe what they have to say. He claimed he was assaulted by 2 security personnel, one of whom had fallen down the stairs and incorrectly believed Yang had struck or shoved him. "They did not say they will hit us if we refuse to leave. They just used the loudspeaker to say we were breaking the law by petitioning. That's ridiculous. It's the banks that are breaking the law," he stated. According to the state-operated Global Times, a number of Chinese financial institutions, including the Yangzhou Xinmisheng Village Bank and the Shanghai Huimin Country Bank, have been suspected of engaging in unlawful fundraising activities. The demonstrators were subsequently persuaded to board government buses that transported them to various locations, where they were compelled to sign a letter promising not to assemble again. Numerous people from throughout China had planned to converge in Zhangzhou to withdraw their deposits about a month ago. However, the health standards that decide whether or not they are authorized to travel changed suddenly. Since the largest residential development company in China, Evergrande, defaulted on a $3.5 billion financial obligation in December 2021, the rate at which people are withdrawing their money from banks has significantly increased. Financial markets across the country were shaken due to this, and the Chinese real estate sector imploded as a result of this. Bank runs and the country's failing real estate sector are just indications of a far more severe problem, according to a group of experts who recently spoke with the Daily Caller News Foundation. According to Gordon G. Chang, author of The Coming Collapse of China, the unrecognized debt problem in China is essentially the root cause of liquidity problems and the subsequent runs on banks. Chang stated, "Chinese authorities are moving against whom they consider to be the perpetrators, but the issue here is not just one isolated incident. There are bank runs throughout China and there are also restrictions on deposit withdrawals throughout China. That points to the larger problem of banks and other financial institutions running out of liquidity. My best guess is the total country debt approximates 350% of gross domestic product." He went on to say that even though the Chinese government has the ability to delay a consequence, Beijing will not be able to handle the level of debt even if they do so. According to information provided by the International Monetary Fund, China's debt level to GDP ratio in 2021 was roughly 50%. In 2022, Japan's debt to GDP ratio was approximately 263%, the highest of any country. Jennifer Zheng, a human rights activist and the host of the YouTube channel Inconvenient Truth, stated that the country's property market fall has significantly contributed to its imminent financial problem, which is the primary justification for its numerous bank runs. Zhang stressed, "The collapse of the real estate market will bring double problems for the banks. Both the developers and home buyers will have problems paying back the loans or mortgages. That's why the banks are having problems with their funds." Shanghai's lockdowns have undoubtedly had an impact on the economy, but Zhang thinks that China's credit crisis and ongoing economic troubles are essentially part of the process. According to the South China Morning Post, China's retail sales declined by 11.1% in June and by 6.7% in May. Zhang stated the lockdowns have caused tremendous damage, but like a Chinese idiom says, it takes more than one cold day for the river to freeze 3 feet deep. The Chinese economy as a whole suffers from a dearth of engines of economic growth and innovative practices. It has many structural issues, and for a very long time, its growth has been supported by the unsustainable expansion of the real estate industry as well as the illegal importation of technologies from other nations. Evidently, this route has come to a grinding halt. In the long run, given President Xi Jinping's continued dependence on jacking up economic growth by using debt to finance infrastructure and related projects, China will become even more heavily indebted, and more banks could face traditional runs if a large enough incident sparks widespread worry, according to a macroeconomic and political forecasting firm. Starting with the collapse of the Chinese property market, a domino effect has taken hold in China's banking sector, further crippling the world's second most populous economy. This is rather unsettling when one considers the fact that the largest economy on the planet is heading in the same direction. The US real estate market is collapsing, property prices are falling, stock markets are crashing, and we have the world's largest overall debt. In the not too distant future, if the events in the United States start to play out in the same manner that they are developing in China, it is possible that we will be the ones who are affected by a lack of cash and see extensive runs on the banks. As both of the world's biggest economies disintegrate into anarchy, there is a concurrent risk that the entire planet may face another financial disaster. It goes without saying that we have been cautioned numerous times that taking on ever-increasing amounts of debt is a step into an increasingly precarious path. The repercussions are evident. It may be a good idea to start finding out how to get your money out of the system while you still can. What do you think will happen to the Chinese economy in the coming months? Do you believe the United States is heading down the same path? Give us your insights in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, kindly like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.